I was born at Conway Regional and have had lots of experience with Conway Regional over the years. So it's exciting to hear updates and kind of see what's happening there at the hospital. But Lori Scroggin has been in healthcare marketing for over 20 years. In her role as Chief Development Officer at Conway Regional Health System, she is responsible for improving the image, enhancing the market share, and raising money for the health system. She has received several awards. I know one is the Faulkner County Leadership Institute Dan Nabholz Leadership Award, and many other things, but she's a past chairman of the Board of Directors for Conway Corporation and the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce, and has served on several other boards. She's very active at St. Joseph Catholic Church. She holds a master's degree in business administration and a bachelor's degree in marketing from the University of Central Arkansas, and also sits on the advisory board for the College of Business. She's a proud mother of 3 daughters, Taylor, Rachel, and Natalie. And if you're in Conway for any length of time, you know that Lori is very active in the community, and you'll see her at lots of different things. So thank you for what you do, and welcome Lori Scroggin.
That's true. I'm pretty active in a lot of things except Rotary. Joe was joking that he was going to introduce me as a guest. It's funny because I remember years ago I would come so many times as a guest with Joe, and I remember Brett said, "I thought you were a member," and then so now I'm a member. But apparently you may think I'm a guest, but I'm here. I'm very proud to be here. I'm very proud for June to be able to coordinate a couple of the programs. Today we've got Matt Troup, that I'll tell you about Matt in here in just a minute, our CEO. And next week you'll hear from Alicia Kunar, who leads our inpatient rehabilitation hospital. The other 2 programs for the month had been claimed. Jason had someone that wanted to speak about Make-A-Wish, and so she's going to be speaking on the 16th, Kelly Collins, and then on the last day of the month, or June 30th, State Treasurer is coming. So let me introduce Matt Troup, my boss. So I hope I do this well. Matt began his role as President and CEO of Conway Regional Health System on August 17th of last year as part of a 5-year management agreement that we have with Conway Regional and St. Vincent in Little Rock, CHI St. Vincent in Little Rock. He was serving there as Vice President of Ancillary Services. Prior to being at CHI St. Vincent, he was Chief Operating Officer and Site Administrator at Holmes Regional Medical Center in Melbourne, Florida, providing strategic and operations oversight for the hospital and the trauma center. His 20-year healthcare career includes serving as Chief Operations Officer at Hillcrest Medical Center in Tulsa. He served in multiple roles at Texas Health Resources in Dallas, where he was President of Texas Health Presbyterian in Winsboro, Vice President of Operations for Texas Health Presbyterian in Dallas, and Vice President for Methodist Health System in Dallas. He's had a lot of experience of leading healthcare. He has a bachelor's degree in business administration, and don't hold this against him, from Texas A&M.
Anybody?
He has a master's degree in healthcare administration from Trinity University in San Antonio. He's a fellow in the American College of Healthcare Executives, and he has a 6 Sigma Green Belt, which I've not really actually seen that Green Belt, but I'm sure we can see evidence of it. He and his wife Melissa have been married for 23 years, and they have 4 sons, ages 9 to 19. Please welcome Matt Troup.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And when you start hearing about all those places I work, I'm like, yeah, I'm old. That's really a long time, and a very privileged history, really, to be in healthcare. I'm going to really struggle behind this podium, because Lori will tell you I talk with my hands a lot. I tend to walk around, so I'll try to obey the mic here. But it really is a pleasure to be with you today. Healthcare for me, and I hope if I convey nothing else to you, you get this sense, is a field of calling. Healthcare is too hard. Whether you work in marketing, administration or at the bedside to do just because it pays well or just to do because of the fame and the glory. It really is about calling, and it really is about purpose. And what attracts me so much about this hospital at this point in time, that's really what we're all about. Our calling and our sense of purpose is really what I get a chance to lead and talk about and to advocate for every day. And I think it's what makes us distinctive, it's what makes us special. And hopefully as we go through some of these slides and our talk today, you'll have that sense. You have a lot to be proud of. I still feel like I am new. I've been here now 10 months. But as I reflect on where we are and the many years, frankly, 78-year history that I now am a part of, you have a lot to be proud of here in Conway. So with that, when we're trying something new here with present, isn't that cool? Pay attention, we'll have more special effects. I feel like it's always important for us to start with our mission, vision, and values. As a nonprofit, locally owned facility, hospital, we pay attention to this regularly. Every meeting that we have, if you see it, you come to our hospitals, and many of you have, you'll see it on walls and staff. I challenge you to ask them what our mission is, and hopefully they'll tell you. But it's our mission is to be accountable to the community to provide high quality and compassionate healthcare services. You can go around the country, you can read mission statements all day long. Usually they've got something in there about improving health or healthcare excellence or quality. What is somewhat unique, and it's not always the rule in our mission statement, is that word accountable. I oftentimes will ask the staff, how many of you have been a patient or had a patient, friend or loved one in the hospital, and almost all of them raise their hand. And to us, accountability is something a little different than it is a lot of places. That person in the bed is somebody's cousin, they're somebody's relative, and not just in a distant sense, but of people who work there every day. And that really drives up the level of accountability to each other that, frankly, you don't see in every hospital in America today. Our vision is to be the recognized leader in healthcare excellence. So we want to be a leader in our region. We want to be not just average. Average doesn't motivate. Average doesn't push us to greatness. We really want to be recognized for what we do and be excellent at it. And our values. Again, this is something that we talk a lot about within our hospital. It's something as we undergo a lot of change and see change ahead, we talked a lot about our values of integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. And these form the bedrock of what we do and our culture, frankly. So what I want to do is start with a broad national landscape of healthcare, what's going on in healthcare, talk a little bit about what's going on in Arkansas, and then speak to Conway Regional specifically. So, as many of you know, from a national landscape, healthcare is undergoing a tremendous amount of change. And if you've had other healthcare CEOs speak or over the years, we all say the same sort of mantra every year. Oh, it's changing. It's everything's changing so much. This time it's for real. What's driving a lot of this change is frankly changes at the national level with the Accountable Care Act and the government's move more now to value-based purchasing, value-based care. We're moving further and further away from the good old days, as I like to think of being paid on volume, being paid a fee for a service. It's now being more and more driven to an outcome. So we've got to not only provide care efficiently and effectively and in a safe manner, but we've got to make sure that when we send you home after your surgery, you don't come back for 30, 60, 90 days. We've got to make sure that you have the medicines you need, you have the care you need, and the follow-up you need when you go home, because more and more of our payment is being driven by that value, what Medicare and other payers call value. Another way to refer to this is accountability or accountable care. CMS stands for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. That's Medicare. Has a target of having 80% of their payments to hospitals and healthcare providers to have an accountability component by 2018. And they're already at in excess of 30% of payments having an accountability component. ACOs in healthcare, we love us some acronyms. I mean, they're everywhere. We've actually just started this month including a glossary. I should just carry it around with me wherever I go because we just throw out acronyms all the time. But anyway, one of those new ones is called an accountable care organization, which basically is a collection of hospitals and physicians coming together to manage risk. So we can come together, we can go to employers, we can go to other healthcare payers, and we can say, hey, we're working together, we're going to share data, we're going to manage care at a more cost-effective and higher quality level of care. There is a target and a goal from the government to have 75 million lives within that ACO structure. Already there's over 28 million lives. In Little Rock alone, the health system I work for, St. Vincent, has one of the few really successful ACOs in the country. And off of about 11,000 Medicare beneficiaries, we were able to show a $4 million savings back to Medicare just by working within this ACO structure. The ACO structure also allows us to share some of those savings with our physicians, which gives puts everyone's incentives in the right place. For too long, healthcare has been incented to do more surgery, to do more procedures, to do more volume, and that dynamic and that shift is really changing with this change. There are mandatory joint replacement programs that are now bundled so that hospitals and physicians get one payment. We got to figure out with the physician how we're going to split it. And there's obviously a lot of politics in healthcare. If you were to go look at the 100 most powerful, most influential people in my industry in healthcare, about 40 to 50 of them, 40-50% of them, have a government relation. They either work for Medicare, they're a senator, they're a congressman of some sort. Politics plays a big role. When it comes to the notion that you're going to pay, you as a taxpayer or you as a government are going to pay for health care based upon value, meaning that if I do a better job with patient satisfaction, and my quality's better, my outcomes are good, then I'm going to get more than the other hospital who's not providing those things. That's something that's really not political, whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever you are. That is something that we can all get behind and agree to. And that notion really has a lot of support. So when we talk about the Accountable Care Act and Obamacare, and I won't take a poll, but I suspect that there's some in the room that probably aren't big fans. There always are. This notion of value-based care is not going away. Whether the Accountable Care Act goes away, Obamacare goes away or not, this notion that we're going to pay for value has tremendous support, and as it frankly it should. It's the right thing to do. So how is the industry responding? Data is king now, more and more. If any of you are familiar with managed care companies, or if you follow a lot of their growth and their earnings over the past few years, they've had some increase with the Accountable Care Act, some increase in premiums paid and in covered lives, but really where they've seen growth and where they have made a ton of money is on selling data. That data helps us to manage populations better. This notion that data is important is really key. We spent a tremendous amount of money just in starting to embark on a new IT upgrade that will cost us about $2 million, really just so that we have better data and can manage population health better. So IT is in healthcare has seen extensive growth. You see a lot of industry consolidation. So as the rate of increase in premiums or what we get paid, our revenue per case goes down or flattens, costs continue to go up every year. And this is forcing a lot of hospitals to consolidate, to join systems. This partnership with St. Vincent is driven in part by this very real reality. We need to figure out how to provide care more efficiently, more effectively, more cost effectively. You see a lot more alignment between physicians and hospitals. So used to be in the day, administrators would sit at one table and they kind of had their own deal, and the doctors were over here, and we talked about each other and made fun of each other all the time. That notion has really gone away. We now have physicians at the table. We have to, in order to really be effective, we've got to align ourselves with our physicians. More and more physicians now are coming out of medical school, coming out of training, and going to work for hospitals, which is something that years ago was just unheard of. No physician would ever do that. They value their independence and their ability to do things on their own. The notion of going to work for a hospital was just so foreign. Now, approximately 70% of all cardiologists are going to work for health systems and hospitals. I would say a good half or more of primary care physicians are going to work for hospitals. It's also generational. They want the stability and structure that a hospital and a health system can provide as opposed to going out on their own. And the final thing I'll point out here is that the healthcare industry is becoming less acute care centric and more population health centric. So what does that mean? We anticipate, and industry pundits would tell you this all the time, that the number of admissions per 1,000, per 100,000 population is going to decline. Hopefully, as we do a better job of managing health, we keep patients out of the hospital, that volume is going to decline. So us as a health system, what we have to do is be able to expand our reach and our touch points. So you see health systems investing less and less in new hospitals and really more and more in access points, because access and getting patients tied into your system is really what's going to drive the day. Within Arkansas, with the private option, we've seen great success. Obviously, as a hospital administrator, you probably expect me to say that. We've seen significant decrease in the uninsured population in Arkansas. It went from 22.5% down to 12.4%. Over 80% of the private option enrollees have an income level at or below the 100% of the federal poverty level. So these are individuals who need assistance. Many of them, 60+% of them, are working poor. So it's not that stereotypical negative connotation that a lot of us have of someone who's on private, who has access to a private option or a Medicaid expansion is lazy and they don't have a job. A lot of times they are working, they just can't afford it. So this program has really given them a lot of access. We've seen decreases in uncompensated care by $149 million just in the first year of the program alone. Believe it or not, those are dollars that many of you who have private insurance, United, Aetna, Blue Cross, pay for. There is a cost shifting in healthcare, and with reduced uncompensated care, that means we've got to ask less or can reduce our rate of increase at least from other payers. And if you look at Arkansas as a state, we're in about the bottom third. What we get paid for our service, say if you take the same service in Texas where I work, or in other states, it's considerably higher elsewhere. So we do more with a heck of a lot less here in Arkansas. That private option has also added about $438 million to our economy just by having more access to care and growth. When you narrow that down to Conway Regional, we've treated or have seen about 14,000 visits into our hospital that we can directly attribute to this private option over the first 2 years. These are people coming to the ER, they're coming in for surgery, admission, or what have you. It's a significant number of people and visits that otherwise would have been uncompensated, may have only paid a fraction of their bill. They now have access to care. We received $19 million in payments from those 14,000 visits. And we've seen a pretty significant dip in our uninsured population in the ER. The private option has been a significant economic driver within Conway. And a lot of you may think that's because a new hospital is coming to town. That's really not it. Having a private option means that physicians are seeing more patients. More people have access to care. They're coming more for their follow-up appointments. We've had 4 urgent care centers pop up in the last probably couple of years. Those are all in response to a demand that's created by people having access to care. One of the misnomers about healthcare is that, and it's kind of an inverse relationship from an economic perspective. The more supply you have, sometimes the more cost you have because people have access to care that didn't have access to care previously. So that has driven a lot of economic growth right here in Conway. We have, in response to that, we've obviously entered into extensive investment in our health system. I'll touch on some of those here in a minute. And we've entered into a relationship, like I said before, as Lori pointed out, management relationship with CHI St. Vincent. As Lori will tell you, I get my we's and nays mixed up all the time. I am an employee of CHI St. Vincent, but as Lori will tell you, I spend every waking hour at Conway Regional, with the exception of the drive. I try to stay awake for that portion of the day when I come into work. But I consider myself a Conway Regional employee and a person. So having said that, we have a lot to gain from the CHI relationship. We can just simply buy things cheaper. We have access to intellectual capital projects, things that we don't necessarily have the resources to do internally. It's been a very good partnership for us. So that's the changing landscape of healthcare. That's the beginning of my presentation, which is not where I wanted to go. Unless y'all are trying to send me a hint. Let me just bounce back here.
That's the video.
What I did. So, I'm going to scare them because they're seeing all my slides. All right, so this is, let me just spend a few minutes talking about progress that we made over the last several months. I think what I want to impress upon you all and everyone in the room is that we're moving forward at a pretty rapid pace. We have a lot to do, all for the right reasons, all for very, very good reasons. But we want to, get ourselves ready for the future. So there's been a lot that's happened over the last several months that I want to touch upon. A decision that was actually made prior to my arrival, but just recently completed. How many of you have gone to visit an inpatient at our hospital recently? Some of you. We've recently renovated our patient care towers. Pretty significant upgrade, about $5 million. We're in the process now of renovating our ER. A couple of minor renovations there, but hopefully will increase access and just the look and feel of the emergency department. We are adding a second cath lab. So we'll now, pretty soon anyway, have 2 new cath labs. The board also recently, I haven't updated this one yet, also approved another CT scanner. We were finding that sometimes when that one CT scanner was down, it was really interrupting our flow and ability to take care of patients. So we'll soon have 2 CT scanners. We invested about $2 million in our electronic medical record. We're in the process of investing $2 million in electronic medical record. And then we just have $4 million of extra capital that we have going on. That's just part of our normal operations. The point here being, I think when you total that up, that's somewhere around $10 million, not including the $4 million in capital investment that we've invested in Conway and in our hospital just within the last year. From a physician perspective, it's a big part of my life. Talking to physicians, working with physicians, trying to find partnerships and ways in which we can grow and align with our medical staff. We acquired Dr. Dobbs' clinic recently. We are looking at ways and a model to bring physicians to the table in a leadership way. So again, like I started out before, not to have physicians at one table and administrators at another, but really to bring physicians to the table. And there's some interesting new models and ways in which we can align ourselves with physicians that I'll just keep at a high level for now, but a lot of cool stuff there. And we've been very active with recruitment. We've recruited 2 hospitalists, so we're now up to 10 full-time hospitalists on our staff. The real focus there is to be able to expand our reach so that when you're in Clinton and you want to send a patient to Conway, which they do often, they don't want to go to Little Rock, they don't want to fight the traffic. We now have the internal resources to take care of those people. A hospitalist is a physician that does nothing but inpatient work. They admit probably 65 or 70% of all of our inpatients. We've also recruited an internist, Dr. Ahmed Ali, who will open his practice next week. He's a good doc, and I think you'll really like him if you go to see him. The best thing about him, and I think if he were here, he'd tell you this, is that he's married to a rheumatologist who finishes her training next summer. So we are helping to recruit her to the community as well. So in a year, give or take a couple of months, probably August of next year, we will have a rheumatologist in Conway. Isn't that cool? We've added a cardiologist, Dr. Lindsay Scott, joined us in September. We've also added Dr. Courtney Sick, who's an OB-GYN. It's a great name for a doctor, you know, to be a doctor, Dr. Sick. Point here being, we've got a lot of other things that are in the works that we're doing to help recruit and bring on new physicians. We have a lot of need. There's a lot of need to grow our medical staff. Our population really needs it. From an operational standpoint, we had a strategic planning retreat here recently. We can talk a lot about strategy, and frankly, you could run any healthcare administrator in a suit up here behind this podium, and they're going to give you kind of the same spiel about strategy and how cool that is. It really does come down to execution and culture, really what drives the day, what will win the day. We've done a lot of cool things here recently that I can touch upon very, very quickly. We instituted something called shared governance. And so this is a model where we take frontline staff and they drive the bus. They help us identify things that we need to work on, capital that we need to spend, the operational improvements that we need to make. There are several unit-based and other functional councils that are underneath that. Again, the intent here is to engage the frontline staff in improvement. And I admit this all the time. I'm not smart enough to solve every single problem. I don't have the bandwidth to solve every single problem at our hospital. Healthcare is, some of you may disagree, healthcare is the most complex business in the world. When you look at the ethical implications, professional elements, societal issues, all the reimbursement, payment issues, it is a very, very complicated business. So we need our frontline staff engaged in that shared governance and shared decision making, really what drives that. We've instituted something called the Sacred 60. So if you're ever in our hospital at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll hear a chime overhead, kind of a little piece of music. I think it's Yo-Yo Ma, cello. That is an audio reminder to staff that we are to be out rounding on patients. So every morning at 9 o'clock, all of our leadership team, myself included, gather in the auditorium and we talk about what's going on that day, volumes, any safety or quality concerns that the staff have. And then the expectation is we all go out and round. We round on our patients, we round on our staff. We are out and about. So as a leadership team, we are to be visible. Even though I work in a hospital, believe it or not, I can sit on my tail all day and do nothing but email, look at spreadsheets. Not my favorite thing to do. You can almost forget that you're in a hospital. So as leaders, we need to be out and be visible. I think this has had a huge impact on our culture. We've also launched something that we call Eye Care Connection, which is a patient satisfaction initiative. We have a lot of work to do there, but with this program, we've seen significant improvement. We're also looking at a program called Care Transitions. It started out as a pilot where we're really focused on transitions of care. We notice we spend a lot of money in that last day of care just trying to find out where patients are going to go. Home to nursing home to skilled nursing, rehab. And this Care Transitions team is really focused on getting that patient to the next level of care in a positive and efficient way. We also have a lot of opportunity with St. Vincent, again, like I said before, just on supply chains and just buying stuff cheaper. And finally, I'll just touch upon this. It all does come down to execution and accountability, like I said before. We're no longer in an environment where we can just kind of sit back and be complacent. We've got to be forward-leaning. We've got to have a bias toward action. And so we talk about this a lot in our organization, really structuring accountability to make improvements. We've invested a lot in our people. I'm a big believer in the power of engagement and what engaging your staff will do. And so I won't go through each of these, but we have something called a top performer program. So at our hospital, every staff member, every 1,300 of our staff are ranked either 1, 2, or 3. Top performer, contributor, and then a 3 is either I just started my job or I'm not very good at my job. And those 3s, we try to help move on. I know there's another hospital coming to town. We want to help them with recruitment, and those 3s are our effort to help. But it's kind of interesting. When I first came to Conway Regional, a lot of the concern was gosh, we're going to lose all of our best people. This new hospital is coming to town. We're going to lose all of our best people. I'm a big believer that if we lose our best people, that's not because of pay. It's not because of the benefits we offer. It's because of leadership. And so we really spend a lot of time and effort focusing on leadership and making sure that we're supporting our people. We have retained 90% of our top performers and continue to retain 90% of our top performers. 90 days out from another hospital opening up in town. That's pretty amazing to me. I didn't even use that word. That's pretty incredible to have 90% of your best people who have options, who could go to work somewhere else, make more money potentially, choose to stay with us. We have benevolence funds. We have employee town halls every quarter. They're mandatory, where we give updates. I give updates on what's going on in the hospital. It's our way of keeping staff engaged. We've done something around population health that's also very, very cool. We now provide free health center fitness memberships to our fitness center for free for all of our employees. There is one catch. You have to go. You actually have to use the fitness center. And so it's free, but if you don't go 12 times a month, then it's not so free. It actually will cost you money. But in all seriousness, this is a pretty significant investment on our part to engage our staff and get our staff there working out and getting fit. We've also added other benefits around personal fitness coaches. If your BMI is at a certain level, we will help you to lose weight. We will provide you resources internally to do that. We've also invested, like I said before as well, a lot on leadership development. Healthcare is notorious, and I'm sure within your own businesses you see it too. You get someone, just because they've been around longer than anybody else, somehow or another they get promoted. And healthcare has not been immune to that. And so we've got to give those people the skill sets to be successful in the future. And so we've invested a lot, continue to invest a lot in that effort. We went through a Vision 2020 exercise with some of our frontline staff at our last town hall. This just kind of represents some of the high level feedback. People really enjoy working at Conway Regional. They like their boss. There is a real family atmosphere and family feel. And people take a lot of pride in that. We want to be the full service hospital. So that means we're going to have cardiothoracic surgery. So if you have a stent, you have a heart attack and you need a stent, you want to go to a hospital that has surgical backup. We have that. We want to be able to provide neurology services, gastroenterology, those things that are hard to get on a full-time basis. We're working very hard to bring together. And we've got to tie together our purpose and our sense of work and demonstrate that by action as well. And be able to work with our physicians. I can't emphasize that enough, and I think that's a very proactive approach that we are trying to do to really reach out to physicians, because we can't do it alone. And physicians have an incredibly difficult job. A lot of us envy physicians because they have a great title or they make a lot of money. The reality is that most physicians come out of training, they're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and they've got to run a small business amidst a lot of change and craziness. And so we've got to find a way to make their life easier to bring them into the fold and be partners. So I want to show you a quick video, so I'll only take a couple of minutes, that I think represents our culture and what we're about in a very meaningful way. So, thank you. I received an email from this person, and we interviewed her, so this is her email.
as a nurse, when you're on one side of the bed, it's one thing, but as a nurse, when you're on the other side of the bed and it's your thing, it's another thing within itself. My dad was admitted to the hospital. It was New Year's Eve. He went to the second floor. He then went to see the ICU because he had a heart attack and had to have a stent. From there, we went to the second floor and then we ended up on the third floor. We've had lots of outstanding nurses and doctors. Yes, Dr. Valentine, or Dr. Scroggins, and they were wonderful. Dr. Kendrick, Dr. Lee, Dr. Woodhull. I had a lot of different nurses that did an excellent job taking care of me, but Joanna just kind of stood out. We spent more time with her. Yeah, very professional, very kind, very compassionate. Yeah, well, you could ask her. You could ask her anything. You know, that's what I like. If I wanted to know an answer to something, then I know she would tell me. And she would be honest. Whether you really like the answer or not, she would be honest. Not only did Joanna take care of Dad, she also tried to make sure that she took care of our stepmom, who, you know, wouldn't take the time to leave and go eat. And she would bring her, you know, snacks to have and make sure she told her that she needed to take care of herself also. As a nurse, you hold another nurse higher than just someone else, especially when they take care of your family. And she went above and beyond. She was very, very good to us. She was there anytime we needed her, any question I had. Dad passed away at 1:13, and she had went down and got her lunch. And I guess the nurses had been monitoring his heart rate and everything, and had told her. And she put her lunch back down and came back out to us to be there for us.
I've now seen that maybe 20 times. We showed it at every town hall. We had 17 town halls when I saw it before, and I still get, you know, chills. That's what we're about. We may not have the newest hospital. We may not support fancy taglines that talk about amazing things. But at the core of who we are, at the core of what we do, is that right there. It's about purpose. It's about people like Joanna, who, if Joanna were here, well, she wouldn't be here. She'd run just as soon as that video came on, because that's not what she's about. She's not about the fame. This wasn't about, to her, hey, I'm going to look really good and I'm going to get a lot of praise and accolades. She hated the fact that we showed this video so many times. But it speaks to the character of who we are. We're not in it for showmanship or to try to impress upon you amazingness. We want to provide great care because it's at the core of who we are and what we do. And that, I know, is ultimately going to be successful. There has always, you know, at least in my first several months there, a lot of concern about the future. You know, healthcare is hard, if not for the fact that we had another hospital in town. There's so much going on and so much change. And there's a lot of staff that do get concerned about the future, what's going to happen. And I always like to wrap up with this quote: as a Christian, my work is my ministry. And I get to identify with that every day. And I get to see the fruits of that labor every day in a very purposeful and meaningful way. And we know that with faith, faith is knowing that faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we cannot see. Sometimes that vision gets a little fuzzy and gets muddled with a lot of concern, but we're certain that if we, again, provide that great care that you saw Joanna provide, that we're certain that it'll be a great day. What questions do you guys have for me or concerns? Yes, sir.
I just want to make 2 quick points. Number one, your diabetes education program, I believe, is state of the art.
Thank you.
I know it don't me. And also, number 2, one of your best kept secrets there is Dr. Annette Anderson, the geriatric psychiatrist, who really helps kids of their parents who are showing early onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. They help diagnose and evaluate those elderly people. And I think those 2 right there, added to what you've already presented, show Conway Region is incredible.
Thank you. I'm proud of those programs, not just for the great work that they do, but we don't make a bottom line on diabetes education. We don't make a bottom line really on geriatric mental health. That's not a service that Medicare pays very well for. But they're the right thing to do. And those people in diabetes education are zealots. I mean, they are full of passion. I met with them Friday, what I thought was going to be just a quick 30-minute meeting, about an hour and a half into it. I think they wore me out. They really believe in what they do, and that's, again, when you got that kind of talent, they're going to achieve. They recently achieved national recognition by the American Diabetes Association as one of only 2, I think, in the state with that distinction. So a lot to be proud of there. Yes, sir.
So I had a recent experience at Conway Regional.
Yeah.
I spent a week up there with my wife. And, of course, you go in scared to death for our first kids. We didn't know what to expect, we didn't know what was going on. And things didn't always go the way that we had planned. But actually, Dr. Sick was our doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And, I don't know if we could have been more comfortable being there for a week. I mean, it was a great experience. So that's a little bit fuzzy. When it comes to health insurance companies, I saw that United Healthcare is pulling out of the Affordable Care Act and not providing insurance through that. Is that correct?
Through the exchange,
Through the
through the
exchange.
health. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
Do you see more companies doing that? And if so, how does that affect everything?
I don't know that I have a good read on that. I do think that there is that potential. Margins aren't great there. Again, like I said before, the growth that you've seen in managed care companies and in their bottom line really isn't because of healthcare exchanges or the Accountable Care Act. It's not what you think that they would do, which is have more covered lives because their bottom line's better. Really, where they're making their money is in data. And many of them have said that these exchanges aren't the field of dreams that they thought they were from an insurance standpoint. So it wouldn't surprise me that you see more and more of them kind of back out. The implications of that, I mean, I do think that there is a supply-demand dynamic there. The fewer you have in the exchanges, it could drive up price potentially because there's fewer there. But I don't really know. It's a good question. What other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
What advice would you have for a student that's going through the MHA program as far as when you completed? What was one of the things that you've done to start your career?
I looked at my wife and I said, I love you. I'll see you in about 18 months. And that's not too far from the truth. In all seriousness, it is a really hard field to get into from a healthcare administrative standpoint. Healthcare is a relationship business, so get to know some people, a positive attitude, a willingness to do whatever it takes to stay up late, to take people to the airport, to kiss as many butts as you can, as you put it really bluntly, will go a long way. And that those early relationships are so critical. I mean, I did my administrative residency at Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas, and the relationships and the people that I got to know there are still people I keep in touch with every day. Those first few years, it's just, you create a bond. It's so important. I would also say that there are a lot of people who will say, well, hospitals in terms of the healthcare industry are kind of a declining field, and so, looking to managed care, physician group practices, or maybe consulting, those are all things that, there are a lot of things you can do with a healthcare administrative degree. I tend to think that hospitals are awesome learning platforms to apply anywhere, to be able to lead people and budgets and be involved in a dynamic, environment where you're looking at process improvement, you're looking at economies of scale, you're working with physicians. It is a great learning platform. So get into a hospital and prepare for poverty for a while, and it will pay off. Those relationships will certainly pay off. Get an internship. I think is also a good thing. Other questions? Probably gone over time. Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Matt, for being here today. I saw Dan Allen come in. I know we're over time, but I'm going to let him, from back there, Dan, if you'll just introduce. We have a special guest with us today.
We have Julia Giuliani, who's going to be going back to Italy on Saturday. She arrived back basically in September. She's been our youth exchange student, and she's attended like 5 major presentations by the youth exchange groups. She's attended RILA. Keith, I think, is one of the counselors.
Yeah, she was in my group too. Excellent.
There you go. And also was at the district conference. So let's all give her a hand and thank you so much. I could take the time to do that.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. All right. Well, Lori kind of gave us a preview of our programs for the rest of the month, so we hope to see you all back next week. And if you'll stand, we'll adjourn with the 4-way test.